All right, welcome to Tribulation 515, 2011. Today is April 25th, 2013. It is a Thursday. Out here in San Jose, California, there's some clouds, but it's a pretty sunny day. The sun is blazing, my friends. This is your first time to the channel. I want to welcome you. That means your eyes are open and you're blessed because you're here. That means if you were living in a bubbleized existence or you had your head in the sand, you've woken up and said, "Man, what the hell is going on?" And what you find is kind of shocking, that the world continues to spiral downwards into chaos. You know, this video blog is my personal witness and testimony to the tribulation that is literally unfolding right in front of my very eyes. All right, where to start? You know, as you saw, it's day 720. Chem Tales, you know. You might have thought, did he misspell chemtrails? We all know about the chemtrails. You know, those are the lines that the planes are putting in the skies every single day, spraying us with who knows what, you know, barium, aluminum, whatever. You know, there's a whole conspiratorial thing about chemtrails, you know. But no, this isn't about chemtrails, it's about Chem Tales. You know, could be about chemtrails, you know, could also be about all the radiation spilling out of Fukushima, man. You know, that's still going on. That's kind of like a chemical. But no, chemtrails in the news, they're saying that now they think Syria is using chemical weapons on the people there. And of course, that's the red line in the sand that our beloved President Barack Hussein Obama drew, where he said, "Hey, you know what, I won't stand for you know, people being genocided, massacred." And then of course he stood there and let it happen, and then he said, "Well, but you know what, if you're using chemical weapons, that makes all the difference." Well, now they're using chemical weapons, so we shall see what that means. But you know, our president kind of has the lead from behind foreign policy. You know, we all went through the Boston bombing, you know, the two terrorist brothers. And, you know, our president, you know, he's very hesitant. He does not want to acknowledge that there is like a global conflict going on. And the roots of it are this radicalized Islamic train of thought, you know. And it's kind of tied into end-time prophecy and killing all the infidels. And the infidels happen to be Israel and Americans. But, you know, our president, he really doesn't want to say that there is a global war or a global conflict. And, you know, what's really funny, my friends, is I play on my Xbox every now and then. I have several war games, but I have this one game that's called, of all things, Global Conflict. And it was made probably right around 2001 or so. But it's about up to 4 players can play, 1 to 4, and you're this squad of Americans. But in global conflict, the enemy is the Chechens, you know, and all through the game they're saying, "Amerikanskis, kill, kill, kill." And isn't that coincidental, because the two brothers are Chechen, you know? And it all goes back to the wars that were happening in the Clinton years, and cruise missile strikes, and, you know, there's all sorts of craziness in there. But our president doesn't really want to acknowledge that there is a global conflict, and it doesn't really matter, you know, whether the radicalized terrorists are homegrown or foreign, you know, because their end goals are still kind of the same, you know, who they're targeting. So it's a problem, and it's probably getting worse. And, you know, they just recently, after the Boston thing, they busted some terrorists in Canada that were trying to blow up a bridge to kill a bunch of commuters coming out of New York. But there is a religious bent to their mind manipulation, you know. And to be fair, You know, the same thing can happen to Jewish people or even to Christians, you know, because the truth of it is, if you allow darkness, the shadows, seeds of hate, bitterness, envy, discrimination, you name it. If you're filled with that kind of darkness and you're planting those kind of seeds and letting them fester, and there's all sorts of information. If you want to hate on somebody, you can find a website that's hating on them, you know. So those brothers, that's what they went out there searching for, was something to legitimize and move forward the darkness that they were carrying inside of them. And it doesn't really matter, that they were Muslim, because, whether you're Christian, Jewish, atheist, Islamic, whatever. If you're walking on the dark side, you're not really walking with the God, that I worship, which is a God of love, God doesn't tell you to kill innocent people. But one of the things I noticed, to take note of, through these all these events, because we've been having all these explosions. They had that huge explosion today. They're having the memorial services down there. They're also having the opening of the President Bush library. But then there was another explosion they just had that was in there. And then there's all sorts of sinkholes and, the flooding across the middle of the United States, all the crazy winter storms. The final winter storm, the Zeus was the name of it, Zeus. Kind of ties into a lot of stuff that's going on. But, one thing I notice is, like, through these events, it's just how the government, how society, how we're all being trained and conditioned and programmed on how to act during disasters and events that, let's just call them, that generate a lot of fear, and confusion. So, like, the government now pretty much shuts down the phones and the internet, because Obama signed that one law that gave the government him the power to do that. They do that. They completely shut down the city of Boston. The government quickly establishes martial law. They didn't call it martial law. They said, everybody shelter. And everybody was supposed to understand that meant stay in your house. But we're all being conditioned. The police and the emergency services people are all being trained, because they keep staging events and having events. And, the one thing I noticed is now they're getting pretty good at where they pretty much separate, like, the free press, the cameras, the police, the FBI, the ATF, all these organizations do a wonderful job of creating space and distance between whatever the event is and our ability to see the event through all the cameras that everybody now has. And, it was especially apparent, when they got to the point where they were getting to the second terrorist, the younger brother, Dokar, when he was hiding in that boat. We sat there looking for about 30 minutes, and man, it was like thousands of cops and ATFs and the dog catcher and the park ranger and every law enforcement person you could possibly imagine formed like a human wall that we couldn't see through. They're kind of, and then there was another wall in front of that wall. But the bottom line is, they always push the press way back, get the helicopters out of the air, and they only give us the images that they want us to see. But what you find is that there are people, like, in their houses poking out through curtains with their cameras, their phones, and slowly we get footage on YouTube that doesn't quite jive with some of the stories that the mainstream media tells us, But, I can see all the conditioning, that's happening. And, in a strange way, like the order of the mayor or the governor, whoever the heck gave the order, where he said, everybody shelter yourself, that same order in and of itself kept those two guys from being found, because it wasn't until he said, forget about that, it's, like, go ahead and go out of your houses, then somebody found that dude laying in a boat. And, that's the silver lining of something that is as horrific as these terrorist events. And even in disasters, floods, tornadoes, etc., there's always heroes, man. And a lot of times it's those first responders, people in uniforms, the police, the firemen, the ambulance drivers. So, you know what? my thanks goes out to all of those guys. But you know what? There's also just heroes that are just ordinary people that do extraordinary things, man, when it comes to times of crisis. And that's the kind of stuff that brings tears to your eyes as you see people rise up and shine, man, in the darkest hour, So my hat's off to all those people, that, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. The heroes rise. We need heroes, A lot of our heroes are falling, but we need heroes rising. But it's interesting to notice, how it seems like we're being conditioned, quickly, for future events that are probably going to unfold in the near-term future. Okay, last few things. The bird flu in China, the H7N9, they're saying it looks like it's drug resistant. So, once again, the global epidemic beast raises its head. Drones, man. Barack Obama, he's kind of known as the drone president because he's killed all sorts of people dropping missiles from Predator drones. And they're saying that's why nobody wants to claim doing terrorist events anymore, because if you identify yourself, then you got to walk around like worried about drone strikes, But, we reap what we sow. There's a dark side to drones. Innocent people are killed, so there's cruelty, where the innocent get killed with the guilty. And you know what? America, we're not alone. Everybody's trying to copy that technology. And, the one country that has is Iran. They've shot down a couple drones. They captured a drone. And now they're providing drones to a lot of countries and probably to terrorist organizations like Hezbollah. And Israel just shot down a drone just today or yesterday, I think it was, that was coming out of Lebanon. And it's not the first drone that they've shot down. They've shot down several. So it's like Star Wars, man, the drone wars. Our president doesn't want to say that there's any kind of global conflict, radical Islam or, drones, but my friends, there is. But, like I said, anybody could be radicalized. You could be a radicalized Christian, but if you're sitting here moving forward with, thinking about killing innocent people, I don't care, who you think, what your motivation is. It's dark. But that's kind of what's going on is Hezbollah. That's the enemy that's fighting Assad up there in Syria. But they still got time to fly some drones down to Israel. Final thing, the sun. The sun has a huge coronal hole. And we're supposed to be getting the effects of that. Even the last day or two on the Suspicious Observers channel, he's talking about our magnetic shields are taking a pounding, that there's been a lot of plasma coming on through. And I think it's like either today, maybe tomorrow, the next day, we're supposed to get all this, wind. Solar cosmic wind from these coronal holes that are in the sun. And there's a big, huge sunspot that's rotating through that'll be Earth facing probably in the next 3 to 4 days. But, there's actually been a real shortage of sunspots, and CME activity, but the coronal hole activity has been huge. And I kind of mentioned coronal holes a couple of weeks back, and they seem to be coming into play. And finally, there is the Comet ISON, that's coming through. It'll be here this fall. It's supposed to be huge in the sky. They're saying that it might be, as it comes around the sun, it might be projecting an extreme amount of ultraviolet radiation. And they said, the scientists know this because the same thing happened when the Love-Joy comet came through. Love and joy, that's what it's all about, Jesus Christ. But our sun, the sun is coming through, coming around the sun, projecting a lot of extreme ultraviolet, and we're talking about all these solar flares and, radiation hitting the Earth. Well, that could be part of it. But right now, Comet ISON is on the far side of the sun, kind of in a blind spot. So NASA and everybody's trying to look at it using these SOHO satellites that normally look at the sun. But ISON is supposedly passing pretty close to Mars and going through the asteroid belt. And the question is, while it's over there in the blind spot, is the orbital path of ISON going to be affected, or is it going to hit Mars attract some asteroids. All that stuff is kind of hard to say, but hopefully we're tracking it so that we can know if there's anything changing. Because if it did change, that would be huge, man, huge. But ISON, that is going to be the event of 2013. And one last note. Throughout history, when comets like Halley's Comet or whatever appear in the sky super bright, it almost always heralds global change and global events on a epic scale. So keep that in mind, my friends. All right, hey, the tribulation continues. Keep your eyes opened. Keep your ears opened. Have an open mind. Try and do something nice for somebody. All right. God bless everybody. This is Tribulation 515, 2011. Keep on keeping on.